Good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I am the chairman of the MDTA Finance and Administration Committee. Today is Thursday, November 13, 2025, and I hereby call the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order at 9 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance and Administration Committee webpage. All members will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting, except for member Ardinger, who only has access to audio today. To minimize background noise during the call, I would ask that everyone on the line please mute your phones except when speaking. I ask that those who are presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you're done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. At this time, we will begin with agenda item number 1, approval of the October 9, 2025 open meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Member Carroll.
So moved.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Thank you, Member Rosen. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are hereby approved. We will move to the next agenda item, contract number J01B560027, IBM Maximo Consulting Services. David, good morning.
Good morning, Member Von Paris. Good morning to the members of the committee, members of the board. Good to see everyone. The purpose of this memorandum is to seek approval from the Finance and Administration Committee to present contract number J01B560027, which is our IBM Maximo Consulting Services contract, to the full MDTA board at its next scheduled meeting. Just a summary and background on this contract. The sole source contract is to get IBM to provide consulting services mainly for their labor folks that have specialty knowledge in the product family. The projects that this will cover are various ones that I've been presenting in the board on a quarterly basis, specifically the asset management program, the Maximo enhancements, and the upgrade. This will be a key contract to help support the effort to get up to the new platform and also to support those projects over the next several years. We will use their delivery consultants and, where needed, project managers. The application suite will be moved up to version 9. A sole source is required because IBM is the developer and the proprietary owner of Maximo, and mainly their technicians are the best at providing the support that we would need for this version. This is a major platform shift. The total amount for the contract is $5,065,328.80 for a term of 5 years. And with that, Member Von Paris, be happy to take questions.
Thank you, David. And for the record, just on the agenda, it had Mr. Wong's name on there, I believe. So we'll just, for the record.
Oh, yes, sir.
We'll do that. The are there any questions from any of the members? Okay. I guess one of the points to make here, I think, is, and I think you may have mentioned that in your presentation, but this is used throughout M.2. Is that pretty accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
And they Maximo is used across M.dot for various applications in IT as well as operations. And previous work, we have used the M.dot IBM contract, and the recommendation from their procurement was to seek our own contract just so that we would be sufficient for several years.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full board?
I think Member Carroll has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Member Carroll. I apologize.
No worries.
Yep.
David, thanks for the information. You said that the Maximo sort of the vendors used across the entirety of the MDOT org. Is there a price break? Or is there a price break? Do we get any volume pricing or bulk pricing and discounting as a result thereof? Or
Yes,
okay,
we do. We do. Yeah, it's a great question, Member Carroll. Our licensing is all bundled together. And so when we go to do what they call a true up, because IBM changed the licensing scheme from what they call a per seat to a concurrent. So it used to be that if the number of people that use the product, each person would need a license. And now it's just the number of people that are in the system at one time. So when we project our numbers, we partner up with MDOT and give them those quantities. So the licensing counts are definitely, I would say they're on the lower end. Lower just meaning that in its entirety, the use of the product, it helps to control pricing.
thank you.
Sure.
Member Carroll, good question. Okay. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for approval?
So moved, Member Rosen.
Thank you, Member Rosen. Is there a second?
Member Artinger, I'll second.
Thank you, Member Artinger. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. David, thank you.
Thank you, Member Von Paris. Thanks, everyone.
We will move on to agenda item number 3, contract MA 28680000. And Joseph, are you here? Hi, Joseph. How are you?
Yes,
Come
hi,
on.
thank you. My name is Joseph Quatron. I'm here to present modification number 5 for the contract number MA 2868 for the electronic toll collection customer service system. I'm just going to walk the memo down, starting with the purpose of the memo. The request is to seek approval from the Finance and Administrative Committee to present Mod 5 for contract MA 2868 with Transcore for the ETC program, and to seek board approval at the next meeting. And this mod would be contingent on the Board of Public Works approval as well. Moving into the background, I'm not going to read verbatim the history, but there has been 4 modifications up till this modification, number 5. 3 of those mods have been financial related. And the last mod, number 4, was really just a reconciliation of the RFP requirements against the what the system is actually doing. And all those have been approved. I'm going to start with the second to the last sentence where it says the current contract value is $357,012,569.56. The proposed mod number 5 includes an adjustment to the calculation of a key performance indicator, and it also increases the funding for new business requirements and O&M line items, normal O&M line items. And we'll get into those details down below. Moving to the summary, as shown in the table below, the net increase for this modification 5 is $38,518,558.29. This includes an additional $61,662,773.43 for O&M activities. And then we're going to apply $23,144,215.14 of unused funds from years 1 and 2. If approved, this new contract value will be $395,531,127.85. So moving down into the table, you'll see that the current the current value is, with modification number 4 is the current value is 357,012,570. And then with the addition of mod 5 and some of the O&M activities, you'll see that it's broken down and it adds up to the 61,662,773. So some of that breakdown includes, the error in the pre-registered account quantities, which pretty much has been the case for every mod we've presented up till now, where we have, where was an error in the original proposal. So that amount is 34,500,000. And then we have just normal recurring O&M needs, routine postage, mailing of citations and NOTDs. That's 19,762,773. And then we have some work we're doing to help collections and revenue collection related to NOTDs and mailing of a second reminder notice and the related postage associated with that, 4.8 million. And then we have a program for transponder replacement, transponder fulfillment, 2.6 million, and that's to replace older transponders so they're read properly at the lanes. So that's kind of a breakdown of the 61,662,773 number. And then you'll see that we apply unused funds at 23,144,215, and you get the net increase of 38,518,558, and you'll see the new contract value there, $395,531, $128. Moving down into the O&M activities, I kind of just explained most of that up above, but the increase is primarily due to changes in certain line items associated with the overnight transition to all electronic tolling due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that particular number 1 there applies to if you look at the table, it applies to the 19,762,000 number. And then number 2, reading in this paragraph, correcting an error in pre-registered account quantities in the request for proposal. So that equates to the 34,500,000 that we've had to adjust every modification that we come to the board with and to this committee with. And then we have the new business requirements associated with the collection initiatives. I just mentioned a few, but we're really increasing the correspondence with the public in hopes that, reminding them that they have a notice. We're actually bundling NOTDs instead of every 14 days. We're bundling NOTDs and sending them out every 7 days because this is known to help collections. The more frequent notifications has shown that collection rates have increased. And then it mentions this transponder fulfillment, making sure that the transponders are being read at the lanes and any old ones are being replaced. So that's pretty much, explains the financials for this. The next section talks about a KPI for the Transcore's customer service center, the employee turnover rate. And this is really not associated with the financials. It was a request for MDTA's consideration to change the probationary period from 90 days to 180 days. So we considered that, and since it's a contract item, it does have to be approved by the board members. And the purpose of this agreeing to this change is to provide a fair and more equitable way of calculating the annual turnover rate. So we're basically changing it from 90 days to 180 days, which is 3 months, and then 3 months is the current turnover rate time frame when they start calculating it. We are kind of agreeing to change it to 6 months. Because there's a lot that goes on the first 3 months when a rep is answering, and the first time they hit the floor and they're answering phones, sometimes it's just not a good fit, and they realize that and they quit. Other times they're not performing and they're let go. And then other times they just find a higher paying job. So the first 3 months on the job is like an adjustment period, and it's very volatile. So we said we would consider this, but it has to be approved by the board members. So that's the extent of that KPI change. And then that ends the presentation. We're recommending that Mod 5 be approved so it can be presented to the full board at the next scheduled meeting. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Member Artinger, do you have a question?
Yes, I actually have a two-part question. First, and thank you for that information. And just as a summary, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. The benefit to of this modification would be that one, I guess we could make the argument that the all electronic tolling benefits us overall, and therefore the fact that we're moving a little bit quicker on this, requiring these modifications, is a benefit. And then two, I guess it's also benefiting us in the toll collections, in particular those that are outstanding. Is that correct? Is that the main benefit to us of this modification?
Yes, we are. This modification does have a lot of collection initiative, change order work, and it is to support years 5 and 6 of this contract and the normal O&M operations to keep the lights on, basically. Does that answer your question, Member Artinger?
Yes, I'm just trying to understand. I want to make sure that the decision of this modification is overall beneficial, and why it requires a modification. And I guess part of it is that because of COVID, that has triggered some of these modifications because of our switch to all electronic tolling at a much rapid rate. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And then lastly, how are we with Transcore? Overall, are we happy with their performance? Because I know there's been some hiccups in the past.
I think we're in a good spot right now. I think that we're in normal operation and maintenance mode. We haven't had any, hiccups. So I think overall we're kind of in a much smoother position right now. For the next 2 years of this contract, I think that we're very stable. So
Okay.
I'm happy with it.
Okay. So they've been receptive to our concerns, and they've reacted appropriately.
I think so, yes. I feel like they've been responsive whenever we've had business needs that we need to adjust on the fly or move on quickly. They're very receptive to that. They've been a good partner overall with MDTA. That's my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Member Artinger. Member Rosen.
Yeah, and I don't know if Bruce wanted to comment on that because I saw him pop on. Did you want to comment on that, Bruce, before I ask a question?
Yeah, if it's a different topic, I was just going to follow up and say
yes.
that I was part of a discussion with a bunch of my colleagues around the country about a month ago on just converting over contractors, and I'd say kind of universally that break-in period of moving to a contractor, new contract on the toll collections, no matter what company it is very challenging. But fortunately, we are kind of past that period, and we're benefiting from a system now, and some of our other agencies are having the challenges now. But just wanted to give that perspective to the conversation.
Thanks. Thank you, Bruce. Member Rosen?
Yeah, so a couple of questions. So related to the, and I know, Joe, you said the KPI, so that's not a monetary impact, but I imagine the purpose of the KPI is so that the vendor can achieve the KPI so that they can either be rewarded or, like I said, the other way, not be penalized. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Member Rosen, they've, for the past 4 years, they pretty much had a really challenging time to meeting this KPI. Their turnover rate is at 75-76%. So they're constantly training and putting new people on the floor. You know, so I think that this is a more equitable way of gauging, you know, the turnover rate. The 3-month initial startup period is it's an adjustment, and some people just aren't a good fit for it. So,
Yeah, so I appreciate the practicality of it, and it probably makes sense, but had this been in place, would they have received more money as part of the contract because they would have achieved the KPI?
yes, so they get disincented when they miss the KPI. It's on average about 2,000 a month. And they've been disincented quite a bit over the last 4 years. They do get incented when they do meet KPIs. I don't have the numbers in front of me, as to, you know, I don't know that all KPIs are incented, but I can always go back and provide that information as to what
Got
the
it.
incentive is when they meet the KPI.
I think it'd be helpful to understand had this provision, this revised provision been in place, what the additional cost, the impact to us would have been. Again, I'm not saying it's not reasonable. It sounds like there's a business reason for it, but there is a monetary impact to it, and we should understand
Right,
what that is.
I agree.
So that would be helpful. And then just the other question, so you mentioned, so this is for years 5 and 6. So how does that correlate to our current, like, does that impact the current fiscal year, or is that going to impact us in the next fiscal years, the next 2 fiscal years?
Fiscal years July of, so this particular mod would become effective February 28th of 2026 and runs through February 28th of 2028. So it's the last 2 years of a 6-year base term.
Okay.
And it starts in February 28th of 2026. We need the funds in place and approved by the BPW ahead of that, so we don't get into any kind of a retro situation.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. So I think it's probably not a question for you, but more, it sounds like for us, when we're looking at the budget, we're probably going to have an amendment to our budget so that we can account for this, since it's a material number that we're going to be adding, even on the pro rata and the portion for this year that we're going to be adding to our budget. That, I guess, Bruce, do you want to comment on that?
I mean, I think we're probably not going to see an amendment because of this. I think we've accounted for these in our budget projections, but we'll definitely, you know, do a scrub on that before we come back to it at the board level for this approval.
Okay. So then you just answered, I guess my final question was, did we anticipate this and account, and did we know that this was going to happen? This wasn't a surprise. It doesn't at this point.
Yeah, we've been working on this and the budget for quite a while, so.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Member Von Paris.
Thank you. Some very good questions and discussion. I do have 2 questions here, Joe.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to the turnover, and just as what Member Rosen was saying, they want a concession. Is that fair? They want a concession. They want to move it to 180 instead
Yes,
of
sir.
90. Okay. is there, we have in the, when you look at the contract, we have some pain points in the contract, don't we, as MDTA, some other areas, maybe that's costing us more or whatever. I'm just saying if they want to move that because it's not working for them, I think we should look at the contract and see what's not working for us. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but if they have a pain point, we may have some pain points too that we may
Yes.
want to consider as part of our, rather than just say, okay, we'll do that. And I think we should look at a way where there might be something else that's an annoyance to us or a cost to us that maybe we can put on the table.
Mhm.
But I
I
don't
agree.
want to go too far with it. I think that's probably other discussion, but I do feel that we should, this is, if we give it to them and, now the, kindness of our heart type of thing, I'm not saying that's all of it, but to make it work for us, yes, but we might have some pain points too in this contract that we might need some help, some modification on their, or some changes on their end.
Right. And, to your point, there's 20 KPIs that are on this particular contract. And over the years, they've struggled with 6 or 7 of them, but they're at a point now where, take, for example, average call wait time, it has to be under 40 seconds. Well, they're routinely meeting that now. And that was a huge pain point for us. Our public was waiting, on the line for several minutes. And now generally they're making that every month. And, of the 20 KPIs that we have on this contract, I think this is probably the only remaining one that they're regularly missing. So I think they've made, a lot of improvements over the years on these KPIs, these pain points, as you mentioned, that really hurt us, like, our public waiting on the phone and things like that, average handle time, taking a long time with each customer. So they've made improvements, and this is sort of like, okay, so you obviously have struggled for 4 years meeting this employee turnover. We realize it's a challenging job, and we're willing to consider making that change. So I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question. I do get the point of your comment about what are our pain points, and if we have any, maybe we can discuss those pain points with them.
Yeah, I would say, and the pain points that also impact our cost. That's all. I mean, this impacts their cost, certainly. I don't want to go too far with it, but I think you understand my question, my
Yes.
concern, or whatever. Bruce, did you have something? I don't know.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I was gonna jump in with exactly what Joe kind of responded with on the things that we have had to, assess to them, the disincentives. So I think the contract has worked well that way. And then on this, I think the important thing for this modification is that we have something realistic to manage to, and we can really press on the significant issues with turnover and ability to manage it, and that helps us overall. And it also this helps us set the stage for the next contract. We can see what this 6-month period is and how we can manage around that with something more realistic, just given the labor market and everything. So, but we could definitely look through, whether there are any other changes that are needed. I think the team's done a pretty good job on those disincentives. So it showed that they can get to that point and eliminate some of those because they haven't met them, and now they're meeting them. So we struck a good balance on those. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. The other question I have is just to touch on the miscalculation, the way that took place and everything. We've learned from that. I would guess, and some kind of, are there any reassurances, I guess, that so that we have taken action so that doesn't reoccur in the future on the miscalculation where we, on the pre-registered
Yeah.
accounts?
Yeah. Yeah, that was, from the original, that was from the original request for proposal and the line item quantities. It was done back in 2018, and it's almost like they missed a digit. And we've had to account for that every time we come to the board. And in this particular mod, it's 56% of the entire modification financially, just with that era.
Right.
And as far as learning, yes, we need to really scrub the line item proposal in our next, generation of a tolling system. Yes, we really need to look at that closely so we don't. I feel like we've suffered with this mistake for now going on, it'll be 6 years once this mod is done.
Yeah, I guess we have that with our team and also with our consultants who help us because they looked at it too.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Is there any
welcome.
other? Okay, well, is there, I appreciate all the conversation here and discussion, great questions. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for approval?
Member Artinger also moved.
Okay, thank you, Member Artinger. Is there a second?
Second, Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Joe, thank you very much for your time and answering
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think I'm up next again,
Oh,
so
you
I'll
are.
just stay on.
That's
Yeah.
right. Sorry. All right, we'll go on to item number 4, contract MA 22570000.
Yes,
So
thank you.
you're-
Yep. Okay, so this is MA 2257 is the Laneside Roadside Contract with CAPS. Just going to walk down the memo again. Purpose of this memo is to request a Finance and Administrative Committee recommendation for approval to present modification number 4 for contract MA 2257 with CAPS to the full board at its next scheduled meeting. And approval of this mod is contingent on the BPW approval. Moving into the background, again, there's been 3 financial modifications up till now. This is modification number 4. Excuse me. I'm going to start with the last sentence in the first paragraph where it says the current contract value is $96,806,477.74. And then into the second paragraph, the proposed modification number 4 will include updates to the language of key performance indicators for video toll review and trip building. We'll talk about that down below. And an increase in the normal operations and maintenance line items due to the conversion from cash to all electronic tolling, and the completion of task orders related to the I-95 Express Lanes northbound extension and the Intel Road image review. So moving down into the summary of the memo, shown below in the table, the net increase for modification number 4 is $19,788,506.44. This includes an additional $21,890,738 in funds for O&M activities, and the application of $2,102,231.56 of unused funds from years 1 and 2. So if this modification is approved, the new total contract value will be $116,594,984.18. So moving into the table, you see the modification number 3, the current value is, and I'm just going to round off these numbers, is 96.8 million. And then for this modification, we have kind of lined out some of the major things that add up to the total amount of 21,897,38. So we have the first line item, AET, O&M support of lane equipment. So since we've gone all electronic, we've got all the lane equipment for the next 2 years at $5,890,738 of basically support of lane side equipment. And then the next line item, IntelliRoad image reviews at $5 million. We'll tell you a little bit about what that's all about below. And then other work, the FSK rebuild, that's mainly going to be ordering long lead items like equipment that takes a long time for us to get our hands on it because it's overseas, and they'll need to get on a production schedule. So we like to have those long lead items ordered early ahead of any kind of construction. So that's like what FSK rebuild is actually what that entails. And then the I-95 extensions, ETL extensions, and then the force majeure, which means any unplanned accidents, for example, the FMT fire incident. So that's $11 million estimated. So that adds up to the 21,897,38. And then you see the application of unused funds at 2.1 million. And then you've got the net increase of 19,788,506. And then the new contract value, 116,594,984. So moving down into the section that says O&M, it kind of explains what I just mentioned above. Just normal lane side equipment, 5.8 million for years 5 and 6. And then additionally, the 5 million is being added to the contract to create an operating line for IntelliRoad image review. And the modification also reflects the inclusion of additional allowance funding in the amount of $11 million to complete the FSK bridge rebuild for those long lead items that I mentioned, and then it accounts for the I-95 ETL extensions and any force majeure incidents, and also for this Maryland Integrated System for Transaction Analytics and Reporting. That's a future task order for CAPS that we're kind of in planning stages for. So moving down into the KPI for IntelliRoad quality reviews, with bringing IntelliRoad on, they're a vendor that'll be subcontracting under CAPS to do image reviews. The reason why we're doing this is that it will improve. We have to change a KPI to improve our accuracy. So I'll talk about those KPIs down below, but the IntelliRoad image review will enhance image review accuracy to minimize the number of customers receiving incorrect bills due to incorrect license plate data. So these are manual image reviews that a group of people do. So this helps to maximize revenue by reducing the number of rejections and toll disputes. That's the purpose of IntelliRoad. And then the KPIs associated with that reflect that we expect improved accuracy during this image review process. So going down to talk about the KPI changes where it says no disincentive for each video-based transaction sent to the CSC within 96 hours. via IntelliRoad within 144 hours. So basically what we're doing is we're introducing IntelliRoad as like a third party to do image reviews, and they need 48 hours to review all images and send them back to CAPS for them then to be built into transactions and sent to the back office. So this KPI is changing to support that, going from 96 hours to 144 hours. We're adding the additional 48 hours. This has no impact on any of the processing times or any impacts to the back office. And then below that is where we change the current KPI for image review accuracy, section 2.2.3.3b. It's currently set at 99%. And that's what we had it set for CAPS. And they've actually, have been meeting that KPI. But with the introduction of IntelliRoad as a third-party reviewer of images, we're increasing that KPI to 99.95% accuracy. So if they do not, review these images and they're not 99.95% accurate, then a disincentive will apply. And then the other KPI in section 2.2.3.3d just says that, since it's mentioned in the KPIs, 100% of all trip transactions completed and will be sent to the back office within 144 hours. So it's changing from 96 hours to 144 hours to account for that 48-hour turnaround time with IntelliRoad. And as I said, we feel like this will improve, this will improve revenue collection because we'll have less, errors and less toll disputes. So with that said, we're seeking approval to present Mod 4 to the full board at its next scheduled meeting. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Very thorough presentation, Joe.
Oh, thanks.
Yep. I also like any way we can increase revenue. I like that closing statement there. It's
Right.
good.
Right.
Are there any questions from any of the members?
I have a couple questions, Member Harris. So one is, well, it's really not a question. So in section 2233A, just that's maybe a typo. It says a disincentive of 100% of the unit price for each video-based point transaction sent to the CSC after via IntelliRoad. I think after may have to be also stricken. So just a typo there,
Yes.
I think. Anyway, that's not that impactful. So the other question I have is, so we're introducing IntelliRoad. There's a cost to that. Are we removing any costs from however they were doing it before, which will be an add back to, and that should be incorporated into this, or maybe it already has been incorporated into the budget?
Can you ask that again? I was focused on what your comment was
Okay.
on the edit. Can you say that?
Yeah.
Ask that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we're adding additional costs for IntelliRoad, and it sounds like it's a great reason why, because it'll allow us to do what we do better and quicker.
Right.
But is there an add? So however these were being processed before, there was a cost to that function. So are we? So this is $5 million on top of that, or are we able to recapture some of the costs that are now no longer going to be incurred because we're adding IntelliRoad?
That's a great question. So this is actually going to be it's called a double blind image review. So to answer your question, CAPS will still be doing their image review and IntelliRoad will be doing their image review. So think of two separate groups reviewing 100% of all the images and then comparing the list, right? From the CAPS side and then the IntelliRoad side. And any discrepancies between the manual image review process, IntelliRoad will take precedence. So if there's a difference, then IntelliRoad will take precedence. We'll use IntelliRoad's information. So to answer your question, we will still have that both image reviews going on. So there's no decrease in the CAPS piece of this. They'll still be doing what they do today. And then we're just adding the IntelliRoad as an additional quality assurance check. So, and also with this, having both parties doing image reviews, if there's ever a problem on the IntelliRoad side of them not getting the images back within 48 hours, we have a bypass mechanism where we can just use the CAPS image review. And that way we don't miss any kind of transaction processing timeframes. So we can bypass IntelliRoad altogether. If, let's say, they have a glitch, their system's down or whatnot, we can always quickly shift to CAPS's, image review process and use that instead. Like I said, right now, CAPS's image review KPI is 99%, and they're meeting that. That KPI, we're increasing the KPI to 99.95 because we've added IntelliRoad, and they boast that they can improve our image review accuracy to that level. So I think I answered your question in a long-winded way, but we will not be reducing any costs because of this. Does that answer your question, Member Rosen?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Rosen. Member Ardinger, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I actually have several questions. Back to the IntelliRoad. So we're going to be paying $5 million for basically a second review. Has
Yes.
there been a done to this to see that it actually pays off from a financial standpoint?
Yes, we have estimated that it's going to be somewhere around 600,000 in less errors and more image review accuracy. We feel like we will recoup that much because of this image review process. And it is also a customer service benefit because we're not misbilling customers and creating toll disputes and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And then basically a repeat of my previous questions. If an outsider came in and said, why do you need modifications to this contract? Why did you think of this at the time? In this particular case, I think the summary or the quick answer would be, it was because of unforeseen circumstances at the time of the contract and or certain benefits that we see that are cost effective, that were maybe available at the time of the contract in 2018. Is that an
Yes, member Arger, that is accurate.
Okay. And then my last question, how are we doing with CAPS? What's our interaction with them? Has it been good so far to date as a current?
Yeah, I think the partnership with CAPS has been very good as well. They have been responsive to our needs. I do not have any issues with the level of support, and their equipment is sound. Occasionally there's hiccups with some equipment, but they're quick to resolve any Laneside issues. So, they react very quickly to force majeure incidents. So if we do have a problem, we're not, losing revenue, or at least we're minimizing the loss of revenue because they get to it. So from my perspective, they've been a good partner. for all, all the years leading up to this modification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good questions being asked here. Just as a little bit of a follow-up to Member Ardinger's question, Joe, the 600,000, I guess, that you mentioned, 600,000. Can you just touch on that one more time in terms of, and can that be evaluated into the ROI on this new technology in teleroad technology? Is there not now, but I'm just curious how that would, I liked the question that was asked by Member Ardinger. And I think that maybe if there is a way to calculate, project, it would be a pretty good thing to do. In terms of, we're spending, $5 million, what are we getting for it? And this technology, IntelliRoad technology, is that the latest and the greatest out there? Is that what we're talking about? And it augments CAPS, their existing technology, as Member Rosen said, it's not a replacement. And in the market today, I'm just curious if when others present this technology, is this like an outsource plug-in that they bolt onto their program and IntelliRoad, or is that a proprietary system?
IntelliRoad is a proprietary system. IntelliRoad, to me, is a very slick system. They have, very nice metrics and dashboards, so we can see where everything's at, what things are, what types of problems with image review accuracy are happening, and certain buckets of images that fall into this category or that category. So they have a very good dashboard for us at MDTA to see what's going on. So we get to see inside a little bit more transparently than what, CAPS currently doesn't present a dashboard. We can get access to it, data information from the image review side. We don't normally have to involve ourselves too much if they're meeting their KPI, the 99% accuracy for images. But I guess to answer your question, I think this is newer technology. It will give us more transparency into what's going on the roadside as far as images go and the quality of the images. And I'm not sure if I answered your question because I just kind of got lost in my dissertation. So
I just when I buy something like that, I want to know what the return on investment is, as Member Ardinger mentioned, and I want the person selling that product, that technology, to kind of give me a statement on what the expectations are and how that translates into real dollars. So right. I that's how I make my evaluation on it. But I don't want to we're oversight, and I understand that, but I think this is a legitimate question. Bruce.
Yeah, and Joe touched on it with the return that we'll see in revenue. Over the next several years, that there's more to that revenue than just the $600,000 per year to get to the overall benefit. So the value to our customers on the error rate Joe mentioned, and the data that we get from this are the other factors that we put into that ROI that aren't necessarily quantified. So I think I really got to compliment the team for identifying this as a way to get to that 90, such a high, Joe, what you said, 99.95, right?
Right.
So, that's, we've been asked, a number of times through, legislative hearings and everything to really make sure we are as accurate as possible. And we're taking that on ourselves and not having the customers to do that. So there's also the savings as I think that was the other thing hard to quantify above that 600,000 is the savings from dealing with the errors in transactions. But we can certainly add a little bit more to the full board item on this, because they are great questions, and we did go through this process for quite a while before making this decision.
Yes, and I thought Joe said it would be 600,000, not dollars, but less errors.
Dollars, I meant dollars.
Yeah,
Okay.
annually,
All right.
right.
Okay. Well, that's then you're already you figured that out already. Okay, because I think it was. I thought it was okay. Well, okay. I think we just answered the question.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for approval?
So move, Member Rosen.
Second, Member Carroll.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks again, Joe.
Thank you very much. Have a good day,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay, we will move on to the next agenda item number 5, fiscal year 2027 preliminary operating budget. And Jeffrey Brown is here to discuss. Good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning, members. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Brown, Budget Director for the MDTA. I'm here today to provide a request for recommendation of approval to the MDTA Board for the fiscal 27 preliminary operating budget. The fiscal 27 operating budget is $463.1 million, which represents a $0.9 million or 0.2% increase versus the fiscal 26 amended operating budget. Several of the key changes include the transfer of IT personnel costs to contractual services due to IT consolidation, increases in Easy Pass service costs, increases in building, road and repair and maintenance costs, and insurance costs. These are partially offset by reduced vehicle expenses and credit card fees. In looking at the budget, we typically break it into 3 major categories. As you can see, there's mandated changes, which is a decrease of $7.5 million, discretionary additions, which is a $20.5 million increase, and discretionary reductions, which is $12.1 million decrease. Moving into the detail for the mandated changes, as mentioned, it's a decrease of $7.5 million. This is driven by the personnel expenses for IT, which decreased $8 million. This is both base salaries and fringe costs related to that. And those were transferred out of Object 1 into Object 8 as part of the IT consolidation. Future IT personnel costs will be allocated to the MDTA by TSO as part of this consolidation. After accounting for this IT change, all other mandated expenses increased $0.5 million. Moving into those costs, overtime increased $0.5 million. Base salaries increased $0.2 million due to 2 effects. There was a $1.2 million reduction due to 12 positions being reduced as a result of the state's voluntary separation program. This is offset by employee reclassifications and other costs. Both pension and employee and retiree health insurance costs increased by $0.1 million. Maryland State Police personnel costs declined $0.2 million, primarily due to overtime, health costs, some state retirement costs, and turnover, which totaled a decrease of $0.3 million, but this was offset by some various other increases in the Maryland State Police costs. All other costs decreased $0.2 million across various fringes and other sub-objects. The operating budget includes $20.5 million in additional discretionary spending. This is driven by other contractual service, which increased $8.3 million. This is where the IT personnel costs now reside. So that's what's driving that big increase. It's the reorganization of the IT costs. Easy Pass Service Center cost increased $5.4 million. This is due to additional costs associated with the implementation of various toll collection initiatives, such as double-blind image reviews to help improve the accuracy of notice of toll due billings and increased video-based transactions. Building repairs and maintenance increases 3.4 million. Most of this was due to a new swing gate contract for the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel and the Bay Bridge, and accounts for 2.1 million. The remainder is primarily due to the Curtis Creek Drawbridge contract, which increased 0.9 million, and all other costs increased slightly due to things such as HVAC system repairs, overhead doors, fire alarm work, things of that nature. Insurance increases were 1.1 million. This is based upon a forecasted 10% increase in market premiums, insurance premiums. Radios and electronic equipment increased by 0.7 million. This is due to a rate increase for our land mobile radios, which is driving this higher spending. Security services, other replacement equipment, and janitorial services all increased by 0.2 million respectively. For security services, this is a new contract for Point Breeze. For the other replacement equipment, this is the anticipated impact of tariffs, and the janitorial services is the result of a new contract. Management studies and consultants increased 0.2 million due to total increased services. All other costs increased 0.8 million, and this is across multiple lines such as other insurance, equipment repairs and maintenance, things of that nature. Key variants for the 12.1 million reduction are vehicle purchases, which decreased 9.1 million. This is due to adjustments on the timing of certain purchases that are now occurring either in fiscal 26 or fiscal 28. Fiscal services decreased 1.3 million due to lower credit card processing rates. This is due to the implementation of enhanced credit and debit card transaction data collection, and this is to reduce the risk of fraud. Gas and oil increases 0.8 million to align with prior year actuals. Computers decreased 0.3 million due to adjustment in the timing of certain purchases for that. Electricity decreased 0.2 million, again, to align with current fiscal 25 actual costs. Additional equipment decreased 0.1 million due to Maryland State Police needs, while transponders also decreased 0.1 million due to reduced needs. All other reductions total 0.2 million across various sub-objects. As you can see in your materials, we do also have a graph that shows the use of funding by division and the uses of the funding by purpose. And then finally, the pin count went from 1697 down to 1641. This is two impacts or two reasons for this. One was 12 pins due to the voluntary separation program, and then 44 pins due to the IT consolidation. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions at this time.
Member Rosen.
Just one question more for clarification. So the IT contracts, so now that we're shifting and just being allocated by the state, it looks like basically it's a wash for us.
It is
effectively, right? Okay.
Yeah, at this time, for this year, it is. Yeah, it's an exact wash. You're moving it from one object to another.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for approval?
Member Ardinger also moved.
Thank you, Member Ardinger. Is there a second?
Second, Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, we will move to item number 6, Investment Committee Report, quarterly review of investment strategy and benchmarks. Kevin and Clayton are here for the presentation, and this is the last approval item on the agenda this morning. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate your interest and the opportunity to present this to you. We have over $1 billion in financial assets that we try to maintain good stewardship of for the agency and for the state, and appreciate the opportunity to present this and make sure that we're all on the same page as far as what's been happening and expectations. In the memo, you'll notice that, and by the way, if you don't have a copy of the presentation materials, I'll try to describe what I'm what I'm speaking to. So please let me know. But in the memo, we state, as per usual, that we are in compliance with the policy, the guidelines, the trust agreement, and have had or experienced no issues. One thing that may not come through is how conservatively positioned the portfolios are. We run a very plain vanilla portfolio here at the agency, especially as it relates to monies needed for capital spending, debt service, operating cash, and the long-term reserves. So we are in compliance. The strategies remain consistent. We have not proposed or recommended any change in strategy at this point. Moving on to what should be the 39th page of the PDF, or slide 2. Again, we talked to the fact that prevailing rates have tended to stay higher, although they have come in. We've noticed during the course of the quarter that there's been a bit of what one may term as a twist in yields, and so that's led to an interesting set of returns for the accounts, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Moving on to slide 3 of the presentation here, we speak to core PCE index, the change over time. It's been fairly consistent the last year and a half, not a lot of change. You know, the Fed has been troubled by the stickiness of inflation. This is their preferred measure of inflation, this core PCE. And they're also challenged, particularly lately, about the uptick in unemployment, which we show in slide 4. So at the table on the top of slide 4, we can see that the unemployment rate, that third row, has ticked up to about 4.5%. And while the core PCE index, the preferred inflation measure of the Fed, is at 2.9. The Fed has stated that they want an inflation measure at 2%. And I recall during the pandemic even that they wanted an average inflation rate of 2%. So we're well above that and have had a real challenge getting down to that 2% level. As you may have noted in the footnotes, we haven't had good data come out since the beginning of the government shutdown. And so these data points here for Q3 25 are actually based on surveys of economists on the street. I don't know. I saw an article yesterday stating that there may never be good data for October at least. And so this could be a challenge for the next quarter or two moving forward. But as of right now, we're using survey data and have populated the prior chart, that core PCE measure, with this survey data. Treasury yields have stabilized somewhat. There's been a lot of noise politically, especially about the desire to lower interest rates. I think the Fed members who vote on policy rates have been pretty disparate in their views, whether they should go lower or remain stable or perhaps even go higher. Tariff impacts are expected to be part of the equation going forward, but it's a real big unknown as well. And then finally, the Fed stated at its most recent press conference that they've decided to cease with what they call quantitative tightening, which is actually simply a reduction of their balance sheet. So that's kind of the background for the portfolio and the markets. On slide 5, we see we do have a very diversified, relatively conservative portfolio. You could look into the MLGIP and see how conservatively positioned that portfolio is, as it's 45% of the assets. It's quite conservative in terms of treasuries and agencies and commercial paper, as is the money market mutual fund portfolio allocations that we have. On top of that, we have meaningful allocations to treasury and agencies ourselves. And you know, the rates for MLGIP are compelling. We continue to see slightly higher rates there than we do in money markets. But as the front end of the yield curve has come in, we're seeing opportunities to do a little bit better, especially based on interest rate forecasts. Not that we forecast interest rates here, but when the Fed signals cuts coming and we know we can lock in a given rate, then we take a little bit of an opportunity to do so. Moving on to slide 6, we'll show the maturity distribution for all of the accounts. This is in the dark blue. This is the match funding accounts. As a reminder, the match funding are the capital spending accounts that we invest and oversee. Those total $591 million. The total return are at 406, and so you can see that we're just at about $1 billion in financial assets for the agency. Moving on to slide 7, we break down the allocation by maturity for the long-term reserves, both the M&O and the general accounts. The M&O is permitted to go out past 5 years, as long as 15 years, whereas the general account is required to stay within 5 years. And we stick to and adhere to that policy and that guideline and have had no issues. Moving on to slide 8, we get into the compliance report. There at the top, one of the guidelines or restrictions is to maintain maturity profile within 15 years again for M&O, 5 years for the general, and then the bond service have to remain within 1 year, and that's been in compliance and has been no issue. You see the breakdown by issuer and product there at the bottom. Moving on to slide 9, we have a breakdown of our allocation of munis and supranationals and then commercial paper. Slide 10 is a modified version of what we've shown you in the past. This is the dealer allocation. We used to have a table. It's a dealer allocation graph. We discussed internally and figured this would be a better way to demonstrate our trades with the dealers that are on the approved list. It's not a bunch of numbers. It's actually quite a simple presentation. So one, we're trying to show how trades get allocated to each of the dealers. Most of our trades, as is required by the policy, are done competitively. And so this just happens to demonstrate who's been most competitive the most recent quarter in blue, period ending 9/30/25. And then we also wanted to compare that with the case as of June 30/24, so just over a year ago. As you can see, there's been a bit of a transition out of some and into others. You know, this is a function to a large degree of the opportunities that we see in the market. And so one might say the market evolves over time and opportunities arise and then they fall, and we take advantage of that. And certain of the brokers are better at some parts of the market than others, or more competitive, if you will. And so there's a bit of a shift here, but I wouldn't read too much into this. It can be a bit random at times as well. Hopefully this is more illustrative and helpful for your input. Moving on to slide 11, we again show the breakdown of the total return of the match funding accounts. Again, 406, 591. All of the match funding is invested with the goal of maturity preceding anticipated spending. So we maintain very liquid short-term portfolios for those monies. On slide 12, as we've discussed in the past, we go through the strategy here. You know, we circled a couple of the columns in that table at the top in red to bring your attention to the fact there's another component to the guidelines and the compliance, and that's how we manage the portfolios. And so part of this process includes managing to a duration or a specific maturity relative to an index. And so you can see that we are very tight to the respective indices for the general and M&O accounts at just over 101 for general for the prior period, and then just under and just over 100% for both during the current period. We have the ability or the latitude to go plus or minus 10%, but typically you won't ever see us at more than plus or minus 3% of the index. So this is a good way to manage, in some sense, the interest rate risk of the portfolios, given that we are going out to 5 and 15 years respectively for general and M&O. Moving on to slide 13, we talk about how we evaluate opportunities and the benchmark implications. Typically, we're not going to consider an opportunity in supers or munis or commercial paper unless certain thresholds are met. Obviously, this will depend on where you are in the curve. You know, we tend to not have such a wide requirement, for example, for munis at the front end, because they tend to trade a lot tighter at the front end than they might at the back end, out to 10 or 12 or 15 years, for example. So this is a good guideline, and it gives us perspective when we're considering things brought to us by the brokers or when we're seeing things out in the market. On slide 14, we go through the performance of the portfolios. Again, focusing in the red there, the red circle there on the 12-month. We're certainly attuned to what's happening over the shorter trailing periods, but like to focus on longer term measures such as the 12-month, where we've seen about a 4.25% return for the match funding, and then the same almost for the total return accounts. If you went back about a year, you would notice that the match funding accounts had about 100 basis point higher return for that period. And the total return had about a 400 basis point higher return for the rolling 12-month period. And so, as Alan and I have and Kevin have mentioned to you in the past, those higher returns as of a year ago should not have been expected for this period. And certainly, as we've seen rates stabilize and come down on the front end, especially, those returns have been tempered and are within line of what should be expected. The chart at the bottom right shows the performance of the general and the M&O relative to their respective indices. And as we would expect, buying opportunistic securities at a premium or a premium yield or coupon or a discounted price, the portfolios have outperformed. This will not always be the case, but over the longer periods should be indicative of what we're able to earn in excess of our benchmarks. Are there any questions? If not, with that on slide 15, the investment committee hereby requests the concurrence and recommendation of the Finance and Administration Committee to move to the full board for approval of the approval of the continuation of the investment strategy and benchmarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. I guess there are our financial advisors are on board with this, and the committee, the investment committee is on board with
That's
this
correct.
continuation.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our advisors joined our last investment committee meeting and had no objections.
Okay, good. And that's a new thing, right? They're able to come back to the meetings?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Looking here, I don't see any questions. So I will ask for a motion to support this and advance this to the full board for approval.
So moved, Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Is there a second?
Second,
Member
Member Rosen.
Arden,
Sorry.
sorry.
Member Rosen?
Give it to
we have a
Member
second.
Ardinger.
Member Ardinger. Okay, I'm sorry.
No need to.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And thank you, Member Ardinger. And is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
And Clayton, thanks again for, there's a lot of material here. It's very important. There's a lot of work that goes behind these numbers. We are aware of that. And we appreciate the effort of the team involved here. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. We will move on to item number 7. And there will be an update here by Chantel and William and Tiana regarding the Independent Auditors Report for the fiscal year 2025 financial statements, audit, and SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. Morning, Chantel, everyone.
Good morning. I'll briefly introduce the auditors. For the record, I'm Chantel Green, Director of Finance here at the Authority. Today, I'm joined by the independent auditors, SBN Company. SBN Company is here today to update the committee on the results of the fiscal year 2025 financial statements audit, as well as the SOC audits for CAPS and Transcore. As Mr. William, we refer to him as Bill Seymour, engagement partner for SBN Company, and Ms. Tiana Wynn, audit partner for SBN Company, will elaborate further on during their remarks. An unmodified opinion was issued for the financial statements audit, as well as the SOC 1 and SOC 2 audits. Regarding the SOC audits, there was one finding related to Transcore SOC 2 audit and one finding related to CAPS SOC 1 audit. And with that, I will turn it on over to Bill and Tiana to discuss the results of the audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantel, and good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Seymour. I'm the overall engagement partner, and as Chantel mentioned, I have Tiana Wynn here with me today, who is the overall audit partner. You should have in front of you a copy of our presentation. We're going to walk through this kind of fairly high level. If there's any questions, please feel free to stop us at any time. I'm going to start on slide 2, which goes through the scope of services. There were individually 5 separate reports that we're issuing for MDTA, the first of which is the audit of the June 30, 2025 financial statements, which gets embedded into the annual comprehensive financial report. We also performed a uniform grant guidance, or if you will, single audit. The authority had received just under $19 million in federal grant funds for the year ended 2025, which necessitated a separate grants audit to be completed, as well as 3 SOC reports, 2 SOC 1 Type 2 reports, one individually for each CAPS and Transcore, and a separate SOC 2 Type 2 report for Transcore, as well as working with management on a year-round basis. As Chantel had mentioned, we have issued an unmodified, or if you will, clean opinion on the financial statements. That's the best opinion we are allowed to issue under generally accepted auditing standards, as well as we found no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting, and we have included a separate report that states as such. We noted 2 exceptions within the SOC reporting item. One item to keep in note, the SOC reporting is different than what we would do for a financial statement audit. So when you hear the word exceptions or findings, we're testing, we have to report, whether it's a very, very small item or a significant item. And when we get into the details here, you'll see both of them are fairly minor. One related to disaster recovery testing, which is more of a timing item, and the second one related to an employee agreement policy item that was not signed for the period. So in the scheme of things, not on the, if you will, the heavy hot side of issues. We are planning on issuing an unmodified opinion on the uniform grant guidance audit. We have no findings there. The holdup there is a new compliance supplement that has been issued in draft form. As a result of the government shutdown, the final one has not been issued yet, so we have to wait for the final one to be issued so we can go through and issue that single audit. We're not anticipating significant changes from the draft to the final. And as I mentioned, we had no findings. We discovered no instances of fraud, and we were not made aware of any instances of fraud. I would caution our audit is not a fraud audit. That would be different in scope. However, professional and firm standards require us to perform procedures related to fraud in the performance of testing, and through those procedures, we discovered no instances, or we had, as well as we did not have any significant concerns related to that. We had no audit adjustments, so the information that management provided required no changing in order to bring that to the statements. And lastly, we received full cooperation. I want to thank Chantel, Deb, and their entire teams for getting us the information. We know that in the scheme of things, there's a full-time job that needs to occur, and us auditors come in, and we were able to get the information timely to be able to be completed timely. Moving to slide 3. We have a pictorial of our audit approach. It's kind of the idea is that it's a filter. We identify the areas of risk, look at controls, testing both the design and operation of those controls, various analytical procedures, substantive testing, and other audit standard required items, which drive us to obtain sufficient audit evidence to be able to issue that unmodified or clean opinion. And when we look at the significant areas of revenue recognition, cash and investments, including restricted assets, capital asset accounting, as well as accounting for pensions, then we also looked at, for audit emphasis, cash reconciliation, disbursements, the collectability of accounts receivable, completeness of liabilities, the transactions, intergovernmental agency relationships going back with the number of agreements with MDOT, debt accounting, looking at those items, as well as service concession arrangements. And through those testings, we had no issues that we would want to bring to your attention from doing the audit. One item to note, in the current year, we adopted GASB 101 compensated absences. That required sick leave to be picked up as an additional liability. You'll see here there's a restatement of approximately $22.3 million, relatively immaterial to the statements as a whole. But going through that process, management did adopt that standard, and it did require a restatement to be able to ensure that we're not pushing into the current year expenses that would have been otherwise belonged in a prior year had this accounting been there in the past. So while you normally say restatement is a bad thing, in this case, it's a required item as a result of the adoption of the new standard. We also adopted GASB 102 related to certain risk disclosures that did not have a material effect on the financial statements. GASB 104 will be adopted next year, which looks at infrastructure type assets. It changes some of the required supplemental information, some of the disclosures. So we'll be working with management to ensure that those items are otherwise included in the statements. It won't necessarily change the numbers at all, but will provide additional background in the footnotes for those amounts. And Tiana, you want to take it from here on slide 5?
Yep, thanks, Bill. Again, my name is Tiana Nguyen. Slide 5 is a summary of our overall assessment of the internal control environment. We do use a 5-area interrelated model that starts at the tone at the top, understanding the competency of individuals in place, the involvement of those charged with governance, analysis and assessments of certain policies, procedures, and best practices adopted by MDTA. In the middle here on slide 5, the area that many are usually most familiar with, the overall control activities. So here, looking at how transactions are initiated, authorized, and ultimately recorded into the books and records of MDTA. You'll see at the bottom of this slide, our assessment, not only did we believe that the internal control environment was designed effectively, it also operates as intended. The next few slides cover our evaluation of the key processes that impact MDTA's financials. So starting, from treasury all the way down to revenues, expenditures, etc. Across slides 6 and 7, we've also bulleted out some of the individual processes or sub-functions of those processes that were assessed during the audit. And again, you'll see that our assessment is effective for both design and operations. Skipping ahead to slide 9, you'll see a summary for the past 3 years of the statement of activities, liabilities, net position, and on the next page, the overall operations of MDTA for each of the fiscal periods ended June 30. I won't go through the numbers in too much detail. The one thing that probably sticks out on page 10, you will see increases in the total administrative revenue due to increased collections and more, timely review of those collections for toll administrative fees. About towards the bottom, you'll see continued accounting for the unusual or infrequent transactions related to the bridge. So in 24, you'll see the presentation of the $325 million. But in 25, there were some additional grants that were received related to the bridge, as well as additional expenses that were incurred related to the collapse. So I just wanted to point out that section, since it is something that is unusual in nature, and point out that the financial statements continue to have the related disclosures around those transactions. If you move ahead to slide 12, you'll see the results of the Uniform Grant Guidance Audit, or that single audit that Bill mentioned. During the year, the major federal program was from Federal Highway, just over under $19 million. That testing of that singular program gave us 95% coverage, 94% coverage of your total federal dollars spent. And the requirement here would have been between 20 and 40%. We are planning to issue unmodified opinions using that current compliance supplement that is available. As Bill mentioned, we are not expecting significant changes between the draft that was released in May and once the Office of OMB gets around to issuing the final supplement. So on slide 13, we've just included some background and some information that we've currently received from the Office of Management and Budget. And our plan would be to finalize the single audit shortly after the receipt of the final compliance supplement. I'm going to turn it back over to Bill to walk through the results of the SOC reports.
Thank you, Tiana. And moving to slide 15 is an overview of the SOC reporting that was performed. The audit period was for the fiscal year July 1st through June 30th. We did the CAPS SOC 1 Type 2 report where we had 5 individual control objectives that were described and asserted by CAPS. We had no qualifications within the report. We've issued a clean or unmodified opinion. As I mentioned earlier, we did have one exception. For Transcore, we do a SOC 1 Type 2 and a SOC 2 Type 2 report. For the SOC 1 report, there were 11 control objectives, and we had no qualifications, and we had no findings there. We did perform certain procedures related to complementary user entity controls. That is, they in their report will say, we do this, but we're relying on these controls. And so our testing pierces through to both levels to make sure that there's no issues there. As I mentioned earlier, the SOC 2 report, this is slightly different. The SOC 1 report is an item where kind of there's a lot of fluidity in what it is that you're testing. You're kind of designing the testing based upon what's asserted, whereas the SOC 2 report is set objectives that surround security, availability, processing integrity, and confidentiality. So if you will, that process, the AICPA goes and sets what it is that should be there, and then we test to those levels. Once again, no qualifications, unmodified opinion. We did have one exception related to the timing of disaster recovery testing. And similar to the Type 1 report, there are certain complementary user entity controls that were tested. Slide 16 just kind of highlights the differences between the SOC 1 and SOC 2 report. When we use, this 1 and 2 kind of jumps all over the place. So a SOC 1 and a SOC 2 report are different. As I mentioned, SOC 1 is typically used for to support objectives as they relate to financial reporting. A SOC 2 report is more structured and is more geared toward IT-based items. Then you'll hear the terms Type 1 and Type 2. A Type 1 report looks at really only the design of controls. So you're looking at the processes and procedures as of a specific date, whereas a Type 2 report looks at the results of the operation of those controls over a period of time. So if you will, the Type 2 report is a more in-depth report because it provides not only a review of the design of the processes and controls, but also looking at the transactions that occurred during the period to determine whether or not there were any issues where, CAPS or Transcore says, hey, we do A, B, and C, and then we go and do testing and see that they don't do those items. With the exception of those 2 exceptions that I noted, we did not have any issues there. On slide 17, it goes through the 5 different control objectives that we looked at. As I mentioned earlier, there was one new hired employee where the intellectual property policy was not signed by that employee. We believe that was an oversight and not necessarily really an issue. It's a documentation item. However, in our reporting, we are required. There's no judgment of materiality. It's kind of fairly black or white. Either it's there or it's not to be there, and that's why it's included as a exception. Slide 18 goes through the different results, things that we looked at for the SOC 1 Type 2 report for Transcore, and you can see that we had no exceptions in our testing there. And then slide 19, the SOC 2 Type 2. Once again, the only item that we had as an issue was the timing of a disaster recovery test was not run during the audit period. We run into this often when you do these because operating on a fiscal year versus a calendar year, you have items where the testing is done post fiscal year, but during the calendar year. The remainder of our presentation, I'll just summarize it. That's Pages 21 through 23 is our specific required communications. This is our opportunity, responsibility to chat with you. If there were items that we had issues with during the audit, if there are areas that lacked authoritative guidance, if we had significant audit adjustments, if we had fraud, material weaknesses, if we had disagreements with management, difficulties, really kind of, if you will, anything negative as part of an audit. And we really have none of those items to report. Once again, management was ready, had information, answered our questions timely, and allowed us to be able to obtain all the evidence we needed to issue the opinion. We did receive certain representations as part of each of the individual audits, and we would be happy to provide you a copy of that if you so choose. There was nothing that was unique or different in those than what is otherwise required under standards. We are independent, and we were not made aware of any additional subsequent events. And I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. Once again, I want to thank Deb, Chantel, and their entire team for helping us get through these audits timely.
Okay. I think it's a very good report. And we appreciate your involvement, Bill, and also Tiana and the other members of the engagement team, Richard, and also Julie. I know there are other people involved, and we appreciate that. Are there any questions from any members? Okay, and again, thank you. I don't see any questions. There's a lot of material here, and we appreciate, again, your involvement. And Chantel, thank you, and Deb and others who also participated in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Hope you have a
you.
great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item number 8, fiscal year 2025 revenue assurance metrics. And Walter is here this morning to talk to us about that, share his report.
Yep. Good morning. Yeah, my name is Walter Lawn. I'm the revenue manager. And this is the first time we're reporting out on this, but it's essentially to review our fiscal year 2025 revenue assurance metrics. The purpose of this memorandum, it's to provide the Maryland Transportation Authority Finance and Administration Committee with an annual update of the disposition of toll transactions and to demonstrate MDTA's performance in ensuring revenue is collected. So this is accomplished by analyzing the final disposition of all toll transactions that are captured at the lane. And this analysis is based on transaction date or the date that the vehicle passes through a gantry. You'll see I've got a listing below here on the memorandum of the different categories we're going to group the lane transactions into. And we'll go more into detail as we get into the slides that are coming up. Just another note on this, the IBTTA, or it's the International Bridge Tunnel Turnpike Association, they have a toll revenue assurance committee. And recently they've had an initiative where they're working essentially to standardize toll processing definitions and performance measures so that agencies can more easily compare their performance to other agencies, just more transparency within the industry. And then occasionally the IBTTA will release industry averages for different metrics. So essentially after reviewing that, we decided we were going to kind of set up the same thing on our end and see where we are in the playing field. So if we go down to the first slide, so we can skip past that, we'll go to slide 2. This is a summary of toll transaction processing. And I feel like before we get into the different dispositions, just to walk through high level of how transactions get processed from the lane to the back office, ultimately to a customer's account and then being collected. So when a vehicle goes through a gantry, they can either be captured with a transponder or via an image. While they're still at the lane side vendor, the images are reviewed and unreadable plate transactions are discarded. Then the remaining transactions are sent to the back office for processing. And so essentially transponder reads are going to post to Easy Pass accounts, whether they be Maryland accounts or through the IAG. And then plate reads can take multiple routes. So if the plate matches to an Easy Pass account, it's going to ITOL to an Easy Pass account. If it can match to a pay by plate account, it can go through IAG, or it's going to go the video toll route. And so there's a distinguishment between the video toll accounts as well. Some video toll customers are repeat customers. So we already have a valid recent address on file. So those will post directly to those accounts. Whereas ones where we don't have a recent address on file have to go to either our MVA or to other states' DMVs for an address lookup. So, and then ultimately after we get the address, then those invoices are mailed to the customer. So that's the process at a high level. Of course, there's much more detail involved, but so this next slide, slide 3, is just the fiscal 25 summary. And it's just breaking down into 3 major categories, like where our transactions ended up. So 94% of total lane transactions either have been collected or are expected to be collected, totaling around 703 million. 4% of total lane transactions are billed but are not expected to be collected. And 2% of total lane transactions were not billed and will not be collected. So if you go down to slide 4, there's a chart here. It's just showing, it's a bar chart showing the disposition of all the different transactions, just to get an idea of like initially how large Easy Pass is of our total transactions that come through, the 85.6%. Then there's some pay by plate, and then video is off to the right in blue. And we'll go on the next slide, we'll dive more into detail on that. And below the chart, you'll see I've got just some descriptions on what each category means. So for instance, if it's Easy Pass collected, it's the percentage of all transactions paid via Easy Pass, either by transponder or a license plate matching to the Easy Pass account. There's some Easy Pass that can't get billed. The IAG rejects them. And then there's pay by plate transactions collected. So slide 5, we're going to take it into the video transactions. And so the first on this chart here, the 5% plus the 2.5%, that's what we've collected and what we expect to collect based off of historical performance. So we've got that there. Then essentially from that point further to the right is what we're not collecting. So the 4% is what we're billing, but customers are not paying. And then the 3 to the right, the 0.9%, 0.8, 0.1, totaling 1.8%. That's what we're not able to bill. And below that, you'll see it's broken into 3 categories. It's the address unavailable from the MVA or DMV. So that's 0.9% of all transactions. Or the license plate was unreadable, which is 0.8% of transactions. Or there's an other category. It's either we received incomplete information from the lane, or sometimes we just won't receive an image from the lane, or there's filters in place to prevent duplicate postings. So not much in there, but we need to account for everything. On the slide below that, and I guess before we go down, earlier I mentioned the IBTTA and that they send out metrics so that we can kind of compare against agencies. And essentially what they say on this is, obviously we think our video toll collection rate is low compared to our historical performance. But what they report out is that agencies say that only 40 to 50% of all video image-based transactions that are going to go the video toll route end up being collected. So obviously we're a little above the mark that IBTTA is reporting out, but again, we still believe we can collect more than this. If we go to the next slide, slide 6, it's just to take a little a deeper dive into the unreadable license plates. Like, what does that mean? So you'll see of them, and the way I have the percentages throughout this slideshow is that first I identify the percentage of all lane transactions, and then the percentage of the transactions within this subgroup. So yeah, it's not much in the grand scheme of things, but almost 50% of all of our unreadable plates are a missing license plate. And so this could be, it's either it's not mounted or it's mounted in a non-conventional location, so it wasn't detected. The next most common is license plate obstructed. And this could be a mud or snow on the plate, a bike rack, trailer hitch, or some customers intentionally will cover it. Another is policy issue. So this is where essentially we don't process out of country plates or federal government plates. So they get pulled out here. And I think maybe in the future I could switch this into the address unavailable category. But this is just, they're discarded at this point in our process, so I left them there for now. And then the final item is system issues. So this is 11% of all the unreadable plates. And this is just due to a system performance problem, a camera angle, exposure issue, out of focus. If you go to the next slide on 7, it's just showing fiscal 24 compared to fiscal 25. And you'll see there wasn't much change. We've remained relatively consistent lately. And it's, I mean, slight improvement, I guess, 93.9 to 94% of transactions collected. And then obviously the percentage of revenues typically lower on the collected because Easy Pass is a lower toll rate. The amount of video tolls have a higher toll rate, and typically the unreadable plates it's more commercial vehicles. Then the last slide here, it's just kind of the key takeaways again, restated from the initial page, but just that we've remained consistent over these last 2 years in the percentage of transactions we're actually collecting on. And then you'll see in the appendix, it gives more details on each fiscal year. Just for a review. So there's one slide 10 for fiscal 24, and another slide for fiscal 25. That brings us to the end. I guess, are there any questions?
Yes, Member Ardinger, do you have a question?
I do. Walter, thank you for this summary. It's excellent, and it really helps out a lot. I just want to go back to the various ways of collecting and relate that to the timing of those collections. And I know you touched on that, but just for purposes of the different classifications. So if it's an Easy Pass, I'm assuming that the collection period for that is probably the quickest and should be within a short period of time for the most part. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, as soon as it gets from the lanes to the back office and post to the customer's account, we're essentially grabbing the funds and collecting on it.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other categories, the pay-by-plate, the video, and the other, what do you have an idea of what the average collection time is for those different classifications?
Yeah, pay-by-plate would be the same as Easy Pass. It's an account where a customer, they don't want to have a prepaid balance in a transponder, but they register their license plate and put a credit card on file. So as they come through and it is received at the back office, their credit card will be run for that one individual transaction, and it's immediate. For the video transactions that are collected, you'll see, and this is on slide 5, I put some notes in there. I put that the customer is expected to pay within 3 years. This percentage is listed here. And obviously up in the bar chart, you'll see that 5% has already been collected. And this, I ran it as of September 30th. And so as things take time to work through our collection process, so for instance, they have to go to the MVA, the vehicles can be, or registrations can be flagged, and they can sit at the MVA for up to 2 or 3 years waiting for the registration renewal time before we'll even get kicked to the central collections unit. So we typically continue to see video collections coming in over a long period of time, typically 5, 6. I mean, we still get stuff coming in from 2013 even today.
Okay.
So it's hard to, yeah. But we can, we calculate like our collection rates based on number of months outstanding. It's not, obviously not a part of this presentation, but where we say like after 3 months, we're seeing an average of this percentage are paid. At 6 months, it's this percentage. At a year, it's this percentage. And we're keeping those metrics so we can track along as Joe mentioned in his presentation earlier about we have these new collection initiatives that we're working on, and they're working on the additional review at the lanes. So we can kind of see how that translates into our collection performance.
All right. Well, thank you. So in summary, our collection, of course, has become a hot topic, but it's
Yep.
really concentrated, sounds of it, on video.
Right. And the majority of our revenue that we get is collected very quickly, like essentially immediately when it's sent to the back office. But yeah, of the video, which is a smaller chunk, then yeah, that takes a little more time.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Member Oettinger. Walter, I have a question.
Yep.
You mentioned we could collect more than this, and what will we do to really push the needle on that? And I'll let you answer that. Good.
Yep. So some of the collection efforts they're doing, I'm not sure which ones exactly Joe mentioned earlier, but sending out second notices for invoices, procuring an out-of-state collections contract to help pursue. Just like little things, changing up the envelopes so they're more recognizable so people aren't throwing them away. And obviously now that we've got the MVA and CCU rolling real time now, that's a big help as well for the in-state, which kind of had to be on pause after COVID and then the waiver program.
Okay. The other thing is, when you take a look at commercial, and one of the big issues with the commercial, transportation trucking industry is what's happening is where we get hurt on it is when the front plate's not there or it's obscured,
Yep.
or other reasons that we can't read it. And the unique thing about MDTA is that we have a enforcement program too. We have a great police agency or department, and maybe enforcement could help us in that area because I can tell you, being in the transportation industry, that spreads like wildfire. When someone gets a ticket, that everybody, for not having their plates on properly and on the front of the tractor, it spreads. If you're going through Maryland, watch out, because they're looking
Yep.
for that kind of thing. And an intensified effort would really boost compliance, which would, I think, transfer into more revenue, especially at the higher dollar
Agreed.
revenue. Okay, I'm sorry, Bruce. I'm sorry. There, go ahead, Bruce.
Bruce, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree on that and the need for enforcement. One of the things that would really help us, and I think Member Von Paris, you're aware of this effort, is that we are looking into whether or not we could do some legislation to recognize the trailer of multi-axle vehicles, not just commercial, but anything as a Class G, which would allow us to, if we can't get that front plate on with that image on the front of the vehicle, go to the rear of the vehicle, capture that image, and then send the toll that way, because that is in the tens of millions of dollars annually in revenue loss, just because we don't have that ability. Really want to keep the front plate as the option in Maryland. There's been discussions about whether that should be eliminated. That has a huge cost to us if that were to happen. We really, like to have that duplicate because of some of the obstructions on the rear vehicles, but that legislation could potentially help us there. So we're looking at that with the General Assembly.
Yes, I have been made aware of that through Maryland Motor Truck Association, and I'd like to maybe, offline talk to you more about it, Bruce.
Yep, and we will be talking more at the board level about that before session 2.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Walter, for your presentation. Very helpful. Actually, I'm very encouraged by it and look forward to I'm glad it's a big focus, and I'm looking forward to the positive things that come from it in terms of revenue generation and all of that. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 9, an update first quarter budget comparison. Jeffrey Brown. Good morning, Jeffrey. Again, how are you?
Morning again.
Okay.
Yes. For the record again, my name is Jeffrey Brown, Budget Director for the MDTA, and I'm here to provide an update to fiscal 26 budget versus actual performance against the fiscal 26 amended operating budget. As of September 30th, we have spent 19% of the budget compared to a target of 25%. All object codes were at or below budgeted spending levels. First quarter is always a bit of a challenge. It's typically repetitive in terms of the reasons, and the reasons typically are seasonality of expenses, which is, when the activity is typically occurring, earlier or later in the year, the timing of when we actually receive invoices, and the year-end accruals that occur usually in the first quarter. These things can heavily impact our percentage spend to budget. Moving on into the detail, salaries and wages is at targeted spending levels with a 24% spend rate. Communications, Object 3 is below budget with an 8% spend rate. This is driven by the state paid telecom, state radio invoice, which has not been paid yet. It's at 0%. When it is, it will bring us back to budget. So there's no concerns with that. Travel, Object 4 is at below budget with a 12% spend rate, which is not way below. And typically seasonality, as I just mentioned, it's usually heavier in the third and fourth quarters. So at this point, we feel we're on budget. Fuel and utilities, Object 6 is below budget with a 16% spend, really driven by electricity, which is close to budget with an 18% spend rate. Object 7, which is motor vehicle operations and maintenance, is below budget with a 9% spend rate. It's driven by vehicle purchases, which is at 8%. This is driven by when we actually receive the orders, so we don't have any concerns at this time. Vehicle gas and oil is below budget with a 13% spend, and vehicles maintenance and repair and large vehicle maintenance and repair are both below budget. I've just lost my place there. are both below budget with the vehicle maintenance and repair at 6% and large vehicle at 10%. Again, these don't occur smoothly throughout the year. So at this point, we don't have any issues with the spend rate. Contractual services is below budget with a 13% spend rate, driven by advertising, which is below budget with a negative 11% spend rate. This is primarily driven by some accrual activity in the first quarter, and also most of the promotional activity occurs later in the year. So at this point, we are expecting to be on budget. Engineers is below budget with a 6% spend rate activity, and typically this is heavier in the third and fourth quarters, so there's no issues with that. Equipment repairs and maintenance is above budget with an 86% spend. This is driven by one-time rubric charges, which is our IT backup services. So this is what's driving the performance. We paid that invoice. We don't expect to be over budget. We expect to be on budget. Building repairs and maintenance is below budget with a negative 3% spend rate. Again, this is driven by year-end accruals and plus activities heavier typically in the third and fourth quarters. Education and training is close to budget with 15% spend rate, while management studies is below budget with a 7% spend. Again, this is due to the timing of the activity of the studies, while security services below budget with an 8% spend. IT services, which is Object 841 through 869, is on budget with a 29% spend. And these have, there are various variances within these objects. For telecom, it's below budget with a 3% spend rate. This is timing of invoices. The application software maintenance is above budget with a 40% spend rate. This is due to charges for body-worn cameras. This is still expected to be on budget. However, we do think this requires some monitoring to ensure that we stay within budget. System software maintenance is above budget with a 63% spend. This is due to payment for consulting and technical services and the rubric software charges, which I had mentioned above. Again, this is the timing of the invoices. We do expect this to be on budget. Outside service computers is above budget with a 67% spend rate. This is again, timing of invoices, payment for OpenGov, which is our budgeting tool, and Salesforce, which is a human resource tool. Again, this was expected to be on budget. EasyPass Service Center costs is slightly below budget with a 16% spend, while other contractual services below budget with a 7% spend. And this is primarily due to the Maryland State Police overhead charges being below budget. Supply and materials is below budget, which is Object 9 with a 7% spend. Roadway and maintenance is below budget, which is driving this Object 905 with the 10% spend rate. Again, typically activities are higher in the third and fourth quarter. Salt, as you can imagine, was zero, no activity until the winter storm season. Uniforms is below budget with a 15% spend. This is just when the orders come in. Same thing with ammunition, which is at a 4% spend rate. It's when we receive the orders. We don't anticipate any issues at this point. While transponders is below budget with a 7% spend rate. It's a little bit lower than expected, but this is due to year-end accrual activity. Replacement equipment is below budget with an 8% spend. The two major drivers are computers and other replacement equipment, which are both at a 1% spend rate. But again, this is the timing of when orders are received. Additional equipment, Object 11, is at a 6% spend. Two areas, additional radios and electronic equipment is below budget with a 1% spend. Again, timing drives that, as well as other additional equipment, which is at 7% spend rate. Again, the timing of the activity and when the orders are received. Fixed costs is on budget, which is Object 13 with a 24% spend. Insurance is below budget at 0%. Again, we haven't paid those invoices yet, so there's that drives it to be below budget. But major outlier is bad debt, Object 1320, which is above budget with a 5,000+% spending rate. This is due primarily to the uncollectible damage expense. There's a tugboat hit the Bay Bridge in 2016, and I guess this is not atypical in terms of the timing. It takes quite a while in terms of lawyers and collections till we get to the point where we feel insurance or the party responsible is not going to pay for the damages, and that's what you're seeing here. These are for payment of damages that were expected to be reimbursed for, but we now expect not to be reimbursed for. So that was the major driver for that charge. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? No? Okay. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 10, first quarter budget comparison review. I have to go to the next page of the actual versus projected fiscal year 2026 capital budget spending. I knew that, but I just went to the next page to make sure it was right. It's a long agenda today. I'm sorry, everyone, but we're getting there. We're getting to the end, very close. Jennifer, good morning.
Hi, good morning. For the record, I'm Jennifer Stomp. I'm the Assistant Capital Program Manager. Today, I'm presenting the first quarter review of the fiscal year 2026 capital budget versus the actual spending as was outlined in the fiscal year 26-31 draft CTP. And this information will also be presented to the full board on November 25th. As of September 30th, 7.2% of the fiscal year 26 $1.15 billion budget was spent as compared to the targeted spending level of 25%. Actual spending through the first quarter was $83.6 million. The first quarter percentage is low because there were outstanding accruals for work completed in fiscal year 25. 95 of the 102 projects budgeted in fiscal year 26 were within acceptable spending limits of 0 to 50%. This is a plus or minus 25% of the 25% target. Due to normal lags in invoicing, generally 2 months, a plus or minus 25% threshold is determined to be reasonable. Actual spending through the first quarter for 10 projects with the fiscal year 2026 budgets over 10 million was $56.5 million. Those 10 projects are detailed in attachment A. That concludes the quarterly update. Please let me know if there's questions or concerns.
Any questions? see no questions. Okay. Thank you very much for your report, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And we will go to the last agenda item, number 11, quarterly update on traffic and revenue. Walter, you're back.
Yep, I'm back. So I'm here to give an update for the first quarter traffic and revenue performance. This is for the quarter ending September 30th, 2025. Overall collected revenue was above forecast by 3.8 million. And the overperformance is primarily driven by the following here on this first page. It's 2-axle easy pass revenue at FMT, or the Fort McHenry Tunnel. And then also we're seeing continued improvement on the collection of video tolls and civil penalty fees by the CCU, or the Central Collections Unit. If we go down to page 2, the table at the top here shows the actuals in 26 versus the actuals in 25. And you'll see that transactions are slightly up about 0.9% and revenues up 6.5%, or 12 million. And this is mostly attributed to the improved collections of video, civil penalty fees, the completion of phase 1 of the I-95 ETL northbound extension, and a catch-up in the delay of New York toll processing. They transitioned to a new back office recently, and there was delays in them getting them transaction files processed. Let's see. So if we go down to attachment A, this is showing the forecast versus actual, and you'll see Easy Pass we're over by 2.3 million, video admin and pay by plate over by 1.5 million, totaling the 3.8. Attachment B is just showing a breakdown of where the actual revenue, what category it's in: Easy Pass, pay by plate, video, and admin. You go down to the next page, it's attachment C. See, this is a breakdown of the $3.8 million. So 2.3 million of it is Easy Pass. Daily average traffic is higher than expected. Pay by plate usage is higher than expected, just slightly. Video toll collection is higher than forecasted. And the administrative toll revenue higher than forecasted. And again, we're listing those as one time because what we're seeing is the revenue, like there are overages due to Central Collections Unit collecting on older debt. And it's, at first we were trying to be conservative and think we don't know how much longer they'll continue to collect it for, but they're doing a good job. So we continue to see the overperformance there. All right. And then the final two, the attachment D and attachment E on the next two pages are just breaking down the revenue a little further. Are there any questions?
I don't see any.
One more thing to add. I think you had asked last time about the express toll lanes opening up and like what we're seeing there. And just so you guys can get an idea, like first quarter last year, actuals versus first quarter this year, we're up, it's like 69% in revenue. And it's, when I compare it to the forecast, we're just about even with the forecast. We're under by about 100 grand, but that's definitely a significant improvement for the revenue with that opening.
Encouraging.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. I don't see any. Walter, again, thanks.
Yep, no problem. Bye.
Okay, we're just about there. Before we close, I just want to mention something here real quick. I believe this will be Deb Sharpless' last finance committee meeting. Is that correct? Deb, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. This is my last meeting.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add a few comments if that's okay. Deb joined the MDTA in 2007 as MDTA's CFO. During her tenure at the agency, she has had the opportunity to steward the agency financially through multiple major projects such as the construction of the ICC, the I-95 ETL, and the construction of the new nice Middleton Bridge. She has also stewarded the agency financially through some of its roughest times, like the collapse of the Key Bridge. Deb's financial and tolling experience has garnered her the respect of the teams that she's led over the years, as well as her colleagues, both internally and externally. Deb's commitment to this agency over the years has never been in question, often working late nights and on weekends, and in some cases losing sleep at night because of her desire to ensure that the MDTA is financially sound. On a lighter note, Deb has made fond memories as it relates to the committee, to this committee. The committee materials were distributed in paper form during months of such as this month when the agenda was rather long. The Division of Finance would find itself up against the clock trying to get the materials to the post office to be mailed before it closed on Friday. It had to be mailed on Friday so that the members would get the materials over the weekend. During one mail out, Finance was unable to get the materials to the post office in time, and Deb personally drove to each member's home to drop off their mail out materials to ensure that they were received timely. Now that's dedication to the MDTA. And if that isn't dedication, I don't know what it is. And I want to another just, and a little birdie gave me some of this information, by the way, or so. And I want to say that Deb is not only recognized here and within the state of Maryland for her accomplishments and her hard work, her work ethic, and everything, and her knowledge, but she's also recognized nationally and even internationally on her outstanding accomplishments and her. She's turned to, they look to her, as many of these organizations look to her for and with her expertise in finance, audit, and certainly in tolling and transportation. So although she will be missed here, she's made it a point in her career to develop a strong, competent team, and she certainly did that. So Deb, from the Finance Committee, we wish you nothing but the best, and I'm sure there's more to come here. So best wishes, Deb. And any of the members or anyone would like to comment, please feel free.
Member Ron Paris,
Yes.
Deb and I go back a little longer than just our MDTA stint together. I'm proud to say that she was my neighbor for a short time when I lived in Harford County, and I remember her going to Montgomery, the old Montgomery Ward building, working with Buddy Rugal, I believe at Maryland Lottery. So Deb, thank you for all that you've done in state service. Thank you for being a consummate professional. Thank you for your stewardship financially of this authority in the years that I've been here, and certainly even before. We wish you the best with next. Go live that good life that you deserve after the service that you've put in for the state, and continue to do great things. We wish you well.
Thank you, Member Carroll.
So, Deb, not going to belabor the point because I think Member Von Paris and Carol addressed it, but you have been the consummate professional. You've done everything with integrity, and very sharp and very smart and know everything. I'm a little concerned with what we do without you, but you've set up a great team and a great department, and we'll figure it out. But thank you very much for everything, and all the best to you in your the next chapter in your journey.
Anyone else?
Thank you very
Member Ardinger, I hate to go last, but I'm going to be repeating what everybody has said. But Deb, I would call you the gold seal of approval. You're going to be very much missed by the board. We've come to rely on you. We know no matter what the subject, no matter what the question, you've researched it, you have the answer. We know that it's been thoroughly looked at by you. You're going to be missed, very much missed, but I also wish you the best in all your future endeavors. I know whatever you set your sights on, you will accomplish to a great degree. Thank you for everything.
Bruce?
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Very good. Nice
Deb, I want to give you a chance to weigh in, so I won't be long, other than to say, I think in addition to developing her team, she's developed her bosses and trained up, as well as her peers, her chiefs, everything that it really set the standard for how you dig into something, ask questions, know what to present to both board members and the public in a very informative way. So Deb, I'll let you go, but I just wanted to add that training up and across in addition to your own team.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. It's been my pleasure to be here at MDTA. I've shared with others. When I started my state career, I worked for Office of Legislative Audits, which means you travel to a lot of different agencies. And, even back in those days, it was always known that MDTA was different. And I mean different in a positive way. And it certainly is. It's a special place to work, cannot ask for a better set of employees. And like many supervisors that are seen to do a good job, it all starts with the staff that supports them underneath of them. Everybody else at MDTA absolutely, gives me the opportunity to shine for you. But please always know just how great the team is throughout this agency. And everybody's replaceable. I'm no exception. You got an outstanding team that will continue to support you in the same manner that, I've been a part of this team. So I really appreciate your kind words. I'll save any other words to later on as the month gets closer to the end. But thank you again for your kind words.
Thank you, Deb. Okay. That note, we will ask to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved, Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Just a second.
Second, Member Rosen.
Thank you, Member Rosen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Take
Take
care.
care. Have
Have a great day.
Bye.